Has that taken anything out of you?
No, we're here and we're ready to play final, and we're really excited to play. We're happy to be here.
A dark force is returning. The team every other fears to face. Equal parts chaos and excellence, they dominated all in their path to seize 6 straight titles.
And with that, Fnatic continues the dream towards a back-to-back major title, a back-to-back ESL 1 title here at ESL 1 Cologne.
Nothing could stop them but an injury to their superstar.
They don't have a smoke. It's over still.
Months later, the fearsome foe regains his strength in the north of Europe. Olofmeister looks to regain his status as the best player in the world, and Fnatic fight to begin their reign anew.
It is the big one, ladies and gentlemen. We plan to end with a bang. The crescendo at the end of day 2 here for ESL 1 Cologne. One of these two teams, Fnatic, you already heard all about them in the video, beautifully versed by the man to my left, and alongside that G2, a team that's already, you know, blown up. We've had so much hype entering in this in the pre-show of day 1. We were sitting there singing the praises of the French side, expecting big things from Olofmeister and Fnatic, and now one of them is going home. Let's not hang too much on how sad that it is in the power of the group of death, but let's instead focus on this one best of one map to determine the fate of these two potentially semi, if not grand final teams. Starting with you, Duncan.
Sure. Well, I mean, we've got a lot of history here. Like, first of all, the
Rewind the clock for me.
Titan core, okay, it has been changing players in and out. It's never been a consistent core of only those players. But ever since they became Titan in G2, they've gone out in the group stage of all the majors. It's been 8 of the 9 majors, if they go out here, that they'll have gone out. Well, actually, it'll be 7, because I guess they weren't at one of them where they didn't qualify because of the disqualification, unfortunately. So 7 out of the 8 that they'd have been at, that's obviously an incredible bad record that they could overcome if they get past this and get out of this group. Meanwhile, for Fnatic, first of all, they've made it out of every single one of the group stages. And in fact, this lineup of Fnatic has never failed to place below top 4 at a tournament. Even when they didn't have Olofmeister, they still were top 4 ESL Pro League Season 3. This is a team that, it's like they trip over and find success, you know. It's like they can't fail. So the idea that they could go out last place at a major and any international tournament is mind-boggling. I can almost not get my brain around it. But it's very possible, actually. G2 is the team with much better form right now. G2 smashed this Fnatic team at ECS semi-finals. So you're coming in right now, I think actually you probably have to say on paper, G2's probably the favorite.
So no matter what, something is going to change here. Some of the history is going to be written.
Change, yeah.
Right.
See, Alex, all logic points to G2 being the favorites in this matchup, so that's obviously why Fnatic is going to win.
Absolutely. Yep, that's right.
How it goes.
That's how it's gone.
Okay. Just Janko analysis.
Okay. Everything says this, so Counter-Strike this.
Exactly.
I think this is actually. You're right. Everything points to G2. I think it's the reason why it's a little bit scary for Fnatic is because we just talked about it when we spoke about FaZe. The reason why they matched up so well and FaZe was able to overcome them is because Fnatic does at times prefer those individual plays that are so scary. If they mistime one of those, if they do a push into, like, you know, whatever map it might be, let's say it's G2, if they do like a push into upper B to try and get some information, try and make a play, and all of a sudden there's 4 G2 members there just ready and just like pouncing, and all of a sudden they just explode onto the bomb site, that's lost. So they have to be very careful how they time these, what kind of information and how they react to them. This is actually very intimidating, and I think it's great that you mentioned that this could be the semifinals or quarterfinals. This could be a grand finals map. I mean, this is 2 teams that we could have predicted to be in the grand finals of this tournament.
Here's the funny thing. I actually know exactly what Janko means, though, when he said it up. Like, I mean, he made it like sound a little bit glib, as though there's nothing bad. No, what he means is, think about all the times you've seen Virtus Pro almost beat Fnatic. You've seen these teams, I mean, Luminosity, actually, one of the earliest events of the year, Starlighter, basically had Fnatic by the throat. They look like they were going to beat them on the 3rd map, and we don't know how they do it, but they do these crazy comebacks. They almost did it against FaZe. They were on these, like, low buys. They were pulling off these crazy CZ kills. The thing about this Fnatic team is it's almost like they have the weight of history behind them. Somehow they just time and time again come through in the impossible scenarios, and they know that themselves, but even worse, opponents know that. And so there's that sort of, like, intimidation factor there. I think when you get into these pressure matches where it's almost like the opponent's waiting for some absolutely ridiculous JW kill or Dennis to just kill someone with a pistol. It's like they almost like they're afraid it's going to happen, and then it does.
It's like the Tiger Woods effect. It's like everyone, when he was having his reign, everyone was just like, yep, we know he's going to beat us. It's a Sunday. We know he's going to come in and just stomp us. And that's the same thing with Fnatic, and I think that injury to Olof has kind of made that wane a little bit. So yeah, that's why we're waiting to see if they can regain that form.
It's interesting you said that in an interview recently. Olof was quoted as saying, I feel like I've lost my confidence. I'm playing the same, but I've lost my confidence. That mojo that Olof and Fnatic did seem to kind of exude. Now, though, it's a best of one. All of this that we've just kind of explained rides on one map, gentlemen, which makes the veto all the more important. Duncan, who has the advantage coming into this veto? Who has that map pool?
I mean, I think, again, you've got to say G2, actually, because if you think about it, G2, when they played at ECS, smashed them on Dust 2, absolutely reamed them on Overpass. So those two maps right there, you've got to look at Fnatic and say they don't want any part of those maps. I mean, they've played FaZe already on Dust 2. That didn't go well. I have to feel like they're going to be scared of Dust 2 against G2. That's one of the best G2 maps. But then what else does G2 want to play? They like to play a bit of Train, so that's the worst map for Fnatic. But actually, Fnatic didn't ban that in the past one, as I remember. So they've got to get that out of the way. No one knows about Nuke. So if I'm Fnatic, actually, maybe I'm leaving that in. I'm hoping that can be like a neutralizer there. I mean, I think Mirage obviously would be interesting for Fnatic. That's one of the few ones I see like going their way, you know?
Teams have been playing chicken with Nuke this whole tournament, Yanko.
I feel that G2 is actually a team that is one of the few teams that is really good on Nuke right now. I remember their series against NIP, and NIP is also a team that practices Nuke, and they vetoed it against G2 because they felt that G2 is the only team that can beat them on that particular map. I don't think Fnatic plays it at all. Even in the earlier iteration of Nuke, when it was in the pool, they also avoided that map. It was their go-to veto, so I feel that's going to be one of the Fnatic's bans, and I feel that they're going to stick with being Team A, so getting to veto 3 maps.
Yeah, we'll be taking a look at them in just a moment. Yeah, you haven't had your kind of input.
I think this veto process is going to be really interesting, because I can't remember the last time in which going into a veto process, Fnatic probably had a disadvantage. And Duncan, you can...
Yeah, I mean, they come straight out with the Overpass ban, because like we said, that is the map that actually destroyed them. Funnily enough, that was actually Fnatic's pick in that series. So they've immediately said, we're not having that again. The guys from G2 banning out Mirage, not that big a surprise there. It's not like it's the best map for the guys from Fnatic, but it's just one that it's a standard G2 ban at the moment. Now, in terms of the next one for Fnatic, this is where I think, actually, it's very interesting, because I feel like they want to head towards Train. They want in the mix there at Cobblestone. They probably, maybe the Train ban could come in here, because I think Cobblestone's one they want to leave for later and kind of float that. We're going to make the guys from G2 ban it.
I would ban Nuke here simply because that leaves the last ban for you anyway, and you get to see what G2 decides to ban. So maybe you don't ban a map that they would have vetoed for you.
The question now, though, is what does G2 ban here? Because I think G2's comfortable playing almost everything else. Like, G2 bans Cobble? Yeah. Okay, so now we're in a situation where Fnatic's choices now, okay, they've got Mirage, they've got Train.
No, Mirage is out.
Oh, they've got Cash.
Train, Dust 2, and
Cash. They've got Train and Dust 2. Now, I think they have to go with Dust 2 ban here.
Yeah.
I think if we consider what's happening in this tournament, consider what happened to them at ECS, I think this is the right one. Now, the upside for them here is the olofmeister lineup against G2 only lost on maps that are already in the ban here. So they lost on Overpass, they lost on Dust 2. They haven't played them on Train. Now, Train, unfortunately, has not been a good map historically for this Fnatic team. But then again, they've also gotten maps before. Like, here's the interesting thing. They went against Virtus Pro at Katowice. Virtus Pro, fantastic Train team. Fnatic barely even played Train, one of their worst maps. And they had this, like, monster win on that map where they dominate. I think they had, like, a 14-1 CT side or something crazy. So they have that, like, historical comeback there. But I have to feel like this is favored G2. G2's a very scary map team on Train, I think.
And this is just classic Fnatic vetoing maps that they've had bad results on recently, like Dust 2, for example.
Do you consider that a bad habit?
Not necessarily, because for them, when you look at the team and how the team works, they're super confident on playing any map, and their style actually allows it to, because they're not focused on strategy, so they don't have to be super well prepared. They're focused on great team play and great individual skills. So in that sense, they could play pretty much every map, but in that context, Train is probably one of the worst maps you can play, because it limits what you can do individually. Olofmeister is known for going out of that team main area. Even that position right to the left is most teams call it Olof, because he's always there lurking, hunting for kills.
Yeah, this has been a map that they've actually, even in the past, even when they've had good results on it, it has been very reliant on olofmeister's performance individually. I think this veto has been just kind of cool, because just before we got started, there's been very few times where we've seen Fnatic go into these map veto processes at a disadvantage, and because they've had so many, they were like the old SK where they had 3-4 maps that they were like world beaters on, where they were the best team on these maps, and now with olofmeister coming back, we look at all these maps and we say, yeah, they're really good on a lot of maps, but you wouldn't give them an advantage over all the other teams anymore on these maps. Like even Mirage, you know, they're not the best team in the world on Mirage. They're not the best team on these maps anymore.
So here's the crazy one for me though, is that if I go back through the whole map veto now and I try to think, how did we end up on Train? A map that actually I think statistically might actually be the worst map for the guys from Fnatic. It starts with the overpass ban though. Like I understand the Dust 2 ban because that's not like a monster map for Fnatic. They've just lost on it in this tournament. But when I go back and I look at the fact that they started with the overpass ban, they didn't even float that till the end and then see what happens with the G2 was never going to ban it, but at least float and see what else is going to be banned out. They just came out of the gate and said we will not be playing overpass. But actually I think, okay, sure, you've had these recent couple of results from G2 on it. G2 haven't played overpass a lot with this lineup actually. They've played it a few times and they've just had some fantastic wins on it. So I think I might have been tempted to try and have that in the randomizer instead of Train.
I just think that from a player's perspective, losing by such a big margin so recently, it's really hard for you to find reasoning within the team. Sure, maybe even the in-game leader or someone who is, you know, trying to mind game a bit more would be like, guys, we can play this. It was an off map, but you always have some players who are just, you know, tunnel vision of sorts, being like, listen, we got destroyed. I don't want to play that map, and that's where the discussion ends.
Might be one of the few times we've seen Fnatic have shaky confidence going into this situation. I mean, just saying, okay, these are maps we've gotten crushed on. Dust 2, Overpass. I mean, just not even want to deal with them.
Now, we talked about best players and confidence. I think it would be nice to take it towards an individual standpoint for a moment. We've been singing the praises of shox recently. In fact, I don't know where you guys stand, but I have heard analysts and punters saying they believe shox is the best player in the world right now. We have ex, if not current, best player in the world, olofmeister. Do you think, you know, over this best of one, we could see one of those rise supreme? Or does it have to, is it the major win before we start handing out best player in the world tags?
I mean, the problem is that shox has been a long time as an individual star that he's had the success of the major. Even when he was in NVS and LDLC, actually he wasn't the main star of the team. He was like one of the role players who played a very good entry role. Amazingly, yeah, long time ago. Haven't heard that name in a long time. So, no, one of the interesting things about shox, though, is it's a long time ago we think of him being a superstar player. He has been for the last few months, certainly. But yeah, I think a good performance at this major would be what would maybe solidify that, not least since, you know, Nico's looked a bit shaky. Cold Zero, admittedly, he's right up there still. He's still blasting it out. He's on a phenomenal team. I think the performance he's had at the last 2 big tournaments, that, well, more than 2, but those particular ones. It was like the group stage of E-League, and then it was ECS Finals, and it was ESL Pro League. Those performances alone were worthy of like world's best status because he would go into the server and he would be the best player. Like the only person who could actually rival him in the server was on his own team, and they would just run in riot over people, like some 80s movie where 2 guys team up and they just wrecking all the enemies, you know.
I think that's almost a sick focus to have as well on screen because he hasn't really had good majors in the past. He's one of the players that struggles the most when it comes to like just isolating, you know, big tournaments and majors. At majors, he's really struggled individually. But this is also the first time he's coming to a major with a completely different playstyle than what we've known him for in the past.
And also going a bit further back with Scream, he was the one left out of those initial French roster shuffles. He was looking for a team. He went with the international team with Kingwin, didn't give up, and gradually improved, and now he's one of the star players. I feel, though, with shox, that he's one of those players. Look back at the qualifiers and the game against Cloud9. When shox decides that he wants to win the game, there's simply almost nothing you can. It's almost unfair looking at how the other team is powerless to stop him.
Yeah, but that's what we say about Fnatic.
Yeah,
that's what we say about Fnatic when they decide they don't want to lose the game either, and they take that pause and like, all right, you've had enough fun. It's our turn now.
About Scream, actually, I did an interview with NBK not so long ago, like a couple of months ago, and in it I asked him about Scream because obviously he played with Scream for a long time in Titan and Very Games, and then there was this era that we were in when I did the interview, for example, where okay, Scream was on Titan G2, but only because there was no one left to get. Okay, that's the only reason. He was like the last chance guy to get. Scream was very much out in exile. He was in the wilderness. No one wanted him, and the reasons why were what NBK said. Kind of something that I echoed as my sentiments at the time, which is you looked at this guy and you were like, okay, what's good about him? Well, he has this crazy one-tap style of play, but it's not effective. Like, he does it, and if you can get a highlight, you have that one round you take out, and you put that one round on YouTube, and it looks amazing, but he doesn't take over a half with it. He'll end the half, you'll be like, how does he only have 14 kills? What was that crazy round? He isn't like the device I mentioned earlier, where he can rack up the 27 kills, just normal kills, you know. He didn't have that in his game. It's almost like he limited himself to go to that style, but what's amazing, I've got to give him credit, he's doing exactly that style. He's producing those highlights, but he's also dropping 30 bombs. He's also doing 20 plus. And when him and shox are going together, I think they, in terms of pure fragging, they might be the best duo in the game right now.
So is this unprecedented for Scream? Like, this is the highest high he's had in his career?
I think so, yeah, because actually, even when Very Games was the best team in the world, amazingly, he was one of the only members in the team who actually had kind of like every now and then an underwhelming performance while they were the best.
And also, if you look back at when he was at his best back then, the scene is so much more competitive right now. So being able to provide such a high level of play in this type of playing field is what is the most impressive.
And the consistency with which he's done it. I think he actually has like one of the coolest stories, just because, you know, he was on some of those really good early French teams, and then he actually, I think he set out with like 2 majors because for whatever, like the bans that didn't allow Titan to be in one. I think the next major there was some other issue where he had to sit that.
Which wasn't a good enough team, I think.
Yeah, something like, and then it was just like, we're watching this guy who we'd all seen play for so long, and he was such a fan favorite, obviously, just because of the highlights, and it was just like, you know, really nice guy, and we're just like, oh, he can't go to the majors whatsoever for 2 in a row.
I've got a cool story for that. Not a lot of people know. So at one point in time, when Hiko left Cloud9, he was actually thinking of making a team, which basically the idea went on without him and became Kingwin, G2, FaZe. Okay, it was this super team of mercenaries people. And one of the names on the docket was Scream, because it was going to be like, oh, we've got Makaleli, he's not in NIP anymore, we could get Scream, or maybe we could have Dennis. Like, there was a bunch of these names out there where they're all good players, or they all have the name, or they all have something about them that's like appealing, you want to see them play again, but they don't have a team. No one wants them in their scenes. And so he really was someone where he could have been like in that scenario. And obviously, later on, he was included in that team, and that's where the project went on with him and became Kingwin, and they made it to the top 8 of a major. So I actually think, though, this is a key quality going to this matchup here, because this is one of the few times where I'm actually going to go against like the current form, I'm going to go against the stats, I'm going to go into who's playing the best, because that's G2, and I actually think that it's Fnatic that's going to win, because there's just something about these guys where it's like, I mean, the famous saying, you just don't bet against Fnatic. It's so hard for me to do so, especially in big pressure situations. Always someone comes through. Then you got to throw in the factor on the other side of the equation. Doesn't matter how great they've been playing in the other tournaments. Until I see Scream actually come through when he needs to in a big major. Until I see people like SmithZz not have difficulties. RPK's never made it out of the groups at a major. There's a lot of qualities over on that G2 side where it feels like they are almost reliable to fall down in this big moment, whereas Fnatic, they've almost never let you down in that sense.
And that's because we did that earlier, you know, at tournaments. Star Ladder, we bet against Fnatic because they looked bad. Same thing happened at
rightfully so, by the way, on paper, you should have bet Na'Vi to win that one.
They weren't so comfortable, they weren't looking that good, but then you just learn from those past experiences that no matter what happens, Fnatic, when it's, you know, crunch time, when it's go big or go home, they always come in huge.
They have that quality of, like, the cat always lands on its feet. It's like, it doesn't matter what's going wrong, someone's going to come up with a huge play from somewhere. I mean, the tournament you're talking about here, they basically were out of the tournament, and Dennis just CZ'd 2 people in the face with like a snap 180. So they do this stuff routinely, and then on top of that, that's when they're up against the ropes. They can also have these games where they turn it all on, 3 or 4 of them are going crazy, and they might just dominate you outright. They might just smash G2 16-3 or something on this map, you know.
It does sound like we are experiencing some severe technical difficulties, so we're going to be resolving them. Guys, this has been fun. We had a nice chance to get a bit of an open table. We'll continue it after our break, so we're going to go ahead and take...
Alex.
We're going to take a quick break, resolve all of these issues so we can bring you the blockbuster that is G2 Fnatic after our break. We will be back, we'll continue this discussion, and there's so much more to be talked about. So guys, stay tuned, and we'll be back with your final game of day 2.
An event like ESL 1 Cologne is more than just a tournament. But not only the event itself, with an amazing crowd, high tension during the matches, and the show in the arena, all of these are meticulously prepared so that you can come to the Lanxess Arena, sit down, and watch the best teams in the world compete on the biggest stage. After picking up the teams from the airport, they're shuttled to the ESL studio to be photographed by the ESL photo team. Every player needs a picture, every team needs an overlay for the show, but this is just the beginning. After every picture's taken, our video team takes the reins. Hero shots for the epic introduction videos are taken, interviews are conducted, and those videos are immediately cut to be part of the show so that you can see them at home on stream or on the huge screens inside the arena. You may think that's all, but the process continues well into the event. During the week leading up to the event and during the event itself, we produce hours of videos and prepare countless photos for the on-air production so that every team and player gets their moment in the spotlight. All this so that we can communicate the excitement of the tournament to you at home and send shivers down your spine.
Get your team apparel now at shop.eslgaming.com.
Right now, on this current meta, I think we're lacking a little of in-game leaders in the world. I think Pronax is the best in-game leader.
That's how in-game leader should be. He should be able to use the players good, you know, enough.
When I see their T-side, like, it's really smart. If you take a look on Fnatic, flusha has stepped up right now, but he's kind of new to this role. And I think the way Fnatic plays doesn't rely so much on his calls, to be honest.
Fallen as well, Fallen.
And I think I consider myself one of the best as well. Our team is doing pretty good. But it's hard to say. You can also state that Pronax was a great mind and he's taking his godsend team to a good shape as the same way he did with Fnatic in the past.
Fallen there just saying, yeah, we're pretty good. Well, they have breezed past Group D and they've got their spot in the Lanxess. And now, welcome back. If you have just joined us and you're wondering what on earth is going on, I thought we had a fantastic game of Counter-Strike coming. You do. Problems resolved, and we get to see Fnatic G2 in their elimination match. I think we just have to kind of play catch-up. We have talked all about the veto. Let's quickly just reiterate how that went down. Duncan, I know your memory's incredible. Can you walk us through that veto, or like rough, abridged version?
Well, I mean, the key thing that it started with is it started actually with Fnatic banning out Overpass. Like, that is not a map they wanted to play, and yet that is a map that they picked against G2 the last time these two teams played each other, which is in the ECS semi-finals, but G2 completely destroyed them on that, and I think they actually destroyed them from the Terrace side. I think they got like 11-4 on T side.
13-2. They did the same as well to SK, I believe, on Overpass, which is a really strong map for
It was the
SK
worst
as well.
loss on LAN for this Fnatic lineup.
Sure. Absolutely it was. And with, I mean, with everything we've said in the past, with the veto now we know we're going into train, it is time for predictions, and you have a fair bit of time just to talk about that. Actually, I'll work away from Moses. Where do you think this is one going? I mean, this is going to be an intriguing desk just to hear these predictions. G2, Fnatic, who's going home, Jason?
I mean, I'm glad Duncan put it so eloquently, and I mentioned him in the green room. I hate making predictions based off not trusting the opposing team, but I'm going to take Fnatic, and part of that is just G2 with their history of doing poorly in Major, not making it out of group stage, Scream not playing well, and Fnatic just being the team who can always pull a miraculous win out. I'm going to go with Fnatic.
I just can't say that Fnatic will go out in the groups of this Major, so I have to go with them here as well.
And Duncan.
Yeah, just to reiterate, G2 have the players who are in better form. As a team, they're in better form. They have better recent accomplishments. I think this is even a better map for them. I'm picking Fnatic for all the above reasons.
Brilliant.
I think magic's going to happen. So, listen, if there was the Nip magic, we can have a little bit of Fnatic magic, right?
I got miracles.
I think that summarizes this entire game perfectly. Everything points to G2 picking up this best of one. However, the desk thinks Fnatic will do it. That's a perfect way to introduce it. You guys enjoy this one. It is Blue and Pansy to dive into train.
Thank you very much. Hopefully I won't be diving in front of any trains, Alex. But yeah, this is going to be a great matchup between these two. One of these two teams is going home, which is insane to consider. Yeah. G2 or Fnatic. And I think it says enough about Fnatic for a whole desk of cynics to sit there and go, everything should go G2's way, but we're all going Fnatic.
It's chaos theory is alive and well. Anything that can happen, well, the opposite's going to happen. So we'll see how well that does end up playing out for our analysts, as we should be getting into this game at any moment. But it's going to be an extremely interesting one. I know I've mentioned this on the desk a few times when I was up there earlier, but I mean, in theory, if the groups had played out differently, this could have been the final of this event. But instead now it becomes an elimination match. And one of these teams isn't even going to be able to attain legendary status. They're going to have to re-qualify all the way through the qualifiers again going into the next major now.
A terrifying prospect for some incredibly talented players here, and it's a curious one, isn't it? Because as said on the desk, all the players individually, you'd argue, for G2 have been playing exceedingly well. There's been a couple of ups and downs. It hasn't been the smoothest of rise, but their peaks have been incredibly high, whereas Fnatic, it's just waiting to see if it comes back. It's like, they're still Fnatic, they're still deadly, but you're not seeing JW being insane recently. He's had a couple of up and down games. You've seen olofmeister saying, well, I'm just not as confident right now. There's a lot of question marks still around Fnatic, but in these situations, these guys consistently do turn up. The last couple of majors, their group stages haven't been flawless. They've often come in second throughout the groups and then gone on to do quite well. They've dropped a couple of surprising games here and there. You know, they lost to Liquid in that, crazy overtime game. They've lost to, LG back on Inferno many a moon ago at Cluj. So it's not been impossible to see Fnatic have tougher runs than others, but they always seem to come out on top. So I think that's consistently. Hello, SmithZz. All right. See, at least he's feeling confident, because that's actually one of the players that I'm hoping Alex got some time to talk about on the desk that might struggle in these sort of matchups, because you have such opposing styles there, don't you? You look at like JW, how he opts, then you look at SmithZz. It's almost two different ends of the spectrum, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, not only something, or rather something else that we should recall too, is just how messy G2's run at the qualifier leading up to this event was, as well as, I mean, they just barely scraped through. They ended up going 3-2, and there was that 16-1 game versus Mouse where they just looked like they had lost all that sort of pomp and circumstance that they had gained in these recent tournaments that made them look so great. So that's kind of what put them into the situation now, and they're going to have to try to find a way to battle out of it in this match. But it does look like we're finally going live, folks. So let's get into it with G2 starting off on the CT side, and Fnatic now jumping onto the T side.
You've got to have the feeling that the Art of War might just about to be rewritten this one. And look at the aggression down on Ivy already. RpK going to take the straight up fight. Stunning little double comes back to back, but it's put to bed by olofmeister in the end, taking him down. So down to the 3v3 here. The T side still going to continue with this aggression, pressuring that open bomb site.
JW trying to wrap around now as Scream is sort of pushed into a corner, but olofmeister just destroyed by, it's not even Scream, it's SmithZz further back that ends up picking up the kill. And all of a sudden G2 with a strong grasp. Fnatic trying to find a way to wrangle out of that, but they can't seem to get good positions. JW trying to sneak back around here, but SmithZz can hear him. That's still a good shot from JW, and again we'll be evened out down to 2-on-2.
Look at these angles they're coming in from as well. flusha and JW in a really nice spot to make these guys work. It's going to be tough for G2 to weather the storm, and they're not already. Scream going down, leaves it to bodyy in the 1v2. JW's got 40 HP, but he finds flusha, but he can't find any more, and that's JW to close it down. Fnatic pick up the first, and already the roar from the Swedes comes out, and a very aggressive, explosive start here from Fnatic.
Scrappy round for both teams there, too. The positions were just completely destroyed from both teams. As soon as they went into the outer bomb site, nobody could really establish a good foothold. At the end of the day, it just comes down to who finds who first, and JW there does manage to close it out with the 2K. Nicely done from him, and we will get into the second round where the investment comes out from Fnatic. 2 AKs in the mix on both Dennis and olofmeister. A third as well coming out from JW, prioritizing that, and G2 have gone for the second round force. 2 scouts on both bodyy and SmithZz.
And a straight up stack here. Look how many players are on the A site for G2. They've said, okay, we'll leave B up to the gods for a couple of seconds here, put a couple of players towards the boost. shox has eventually pulled himself back around with the deagle, but he's playing extremely passively. So almost saying, all right, if we have to take this, at least I get the info. I won't be able to take up straight up battle there, but he now has bodyy with him, and they've reset. So a bit of an all-in look towards A. Said, all right, they're not going for that fast play again. Let's reset the pace. Let's play a little bit more default. And this is all about the tags getting a bit of damage here for the CT side. The Scout and Deagle combo is still just as deadly. It can do work. And Fnatic needs to respect that, and it looks like they are. They've gone back to a slower, more default approach.
Moving away from the areas towards Ivy now. They start to line themselves up. Dennis still holding the bomb up on top of the ladder room, leaving an option open to go for really either side at this point, but with 4 stacked up in the inner sight, and olofmeister actually getting tagged down at 29 HP. That's going to press him out of here, and it looks like they're going to commit themselves to the take on inner instead. They do have bodyy hiding a little bit further back here, trying to go for the jump scout shots, but Fnatic still being pretty quiet about this with only 40 seconds left.
And G2 have committed quite some large degree of players over towards B. Scream's actually backed away from it, but SmithZz pulled himself over. shox playing out by CT. You've got 4 players from Fnatic already on the site. The bombs can be planted. They've given up so much room here. G2, they haven't been able to get the initial damage done that they would have wanted with those deagles, and now it just might turn into the shooting gallery that Fnatic was wanting.
SmithZz, unfortunately, leaving his head up there a little bit too long, trying to go for the scout shots on upper. It doesn't pay off. That's a good shot from KRIMZ at very long range to take down Scream. bodyy has a response for that one, moving back in. And yeah, shox finding another pickup there too. So the CT is slowly being punished, but KRIMZ moving in. There's another one for him. Dennis still holds this angle. It takes RpK a minute, but he does find the kill. Ultimately, though, into this 1-on-2. There's not a whole lot of room to work with, so time to run away. Still has the scout in hand, along with armor and an upgraded pistol. That's a lot to carry into the third round, so look to save that and give the second one to Fnatic.
That did start to get a little bit scary for Fnatic. They started to get a little bit lower on HP. You saw that the deagles did finally come in. The scouts started to find some reward, but still taking away a couple of rifles from Fnatic, not a bad impact, but a big investment from G2 there will mean that this round's not necessarily foregone, but it's going to be very, very light investments at most. They still had that scout retained by RpK. He himself already had the 5-7, so going to split that over with SmithZz, give him the scout, and stick on the 5-7 himself. Outside of that, looking at Fnatic, however, a nice buy coming out. flusha going to be the man pretty much at the forefront for them to try and claim these frags at least, if he can. Try and build up that bank as fast as possible. And already a very quick start towards that B site.
And this round, of course, you're really only going to have those guns that was carried out at the end of the last one there by G2. So they're going to go for the very light investment this time, and Fnatic looking to farm the cash. Keep in mind, they did lose a lot there, so a lot of rebuys coming in, still keeping their money under control too. But this is the round where they should, in theory, be able to push through it without too much of an issue. Still holding back, still being passive, just in the event that G2 tried to do something a little bit more aggressive to catch them off guard and find a couple of those drops. But as soon as the timer runs down low enough, we will start to see Fnatic push their way in. And we already have olofmeister now pushing his way out from the T-connector. Not a whole lot to be seen for him as he's sneaking his way now up the short alley, where he will find RPK around the corner in just a moment. But beyond that, it doesn't look like anybody from the CT side is going to spot up the first encounter. Catches RPK looking the complete wrong direction, and it's basically for free to start it off.
Spotting out 2 more players as well. Olof has a great idea as to how many people are still on this A site. Now, actually losing out on that rifle could be a little bit of a problem here, but with no armor to supplement it, it's going to be tough to work with. Now, Fnatic have taken what they can, and they've pushed themselves towards B. Bomb is down. JW almost had a little bit of a worry there, but flusha has found his place with that MAC-10, and that's what he wants to be doing, getting these kills as much as possible. No armor with the CTs means this is a tough one. And flusha's at MAC-10 should be able to do more damage, but he's not pushing directly for it. Still being fairly respectful here, but you can see JW wanting more and gets punished. SmithZz takes his head off and down to a 3v2. This shouldn't be winnable. There's no kit on the CT side, but more damage than Fnatic would be wanting to be taking here.
G2 poking holes at the aggression from Fnatic there, but the good news is that the initial play from olofmeister bought the time that was needed for the rest of the team to push to the B site. They're still going to win this round regardless, and basically it's just a bit of a standoff now between SmithZz and flusha. Still sitting further back on the site. They'll try to evacuate now. SmithZz is going to find a surprise in front of him. He does actually get the no-scope, but the drop-by nade from flusha is going to end up finishing him off. That's a style kill if I've ever seen one. Fnatic picks up that round. It'll be 3-0 as we get into the first gun round.
Fnatic, however, not able to get away unscathed throughout that. They have lost a couple of members. Enough money's come in towards G2. We're going to see the AWP coming out at the first opportunity to do so. SmithZz going straight onto that. Going to be a glass cannon, but the one thing I want to point out is he's not alone on this. They've gone for a double AWP, both glass cannons, shox as well picking it up. So this is a massive investment into this round for G2, and quite the risky one to say the least. And Fnatic well set, full buy coming into this one. And look at this play from FNC already. Fnatic taking their time here. You've got 2 players looking towards B. Well, one, should I say, mostly flusha here. Dennis supporting, ensuring no one can come up pop. And the other 3 putting down those smokes towards A, putting a couple of plays into place. But I'm wondering if they can actually build off the back of this, or if it's just a clever ruse. At the moment, it looks like there is some commitment here. Oh, and shox and SmithZz line them up, knock them down. That's 3 back-to-back. There's the 4th. And this has been a clean round from G2. The clinical start that they would have wanted here. And flusha knows this one's all but done.
Those for being so sloppy on G2's side of it to so well calculated, and Fnatic, they don't find anything there in their attempts to push out to the site. flusha's kind of left wondering, well, what exactly happened there, guys? As there was only 3 damage done to anybody on G2. Screams hit a little bit, but that's it. Those ops on both SmithZz and shox do some serious work. And disallows for Fnatic, even getting an inch into the A bomb site.
You can argue Fnatic probably didn't expect there to be 2 AWPs already facing them at this point, 1 maybe at most, but there you have it. That's only going to keep their attention now pulled towards this game, and shox to close out. So both AWPs doubling up in this one, 2 for 2 for them. Brilliant impact. It was Scream to find the other, and they're back into a good position now. They can, you know, support themselves with a bit more armor, get that utility in there. Very, very clean stuff from G2, and Fnatic look a little bit shocked and awed. Look at this, SmithZz finds one so instantaneously. You had the crossfire into play from shox as well. Scream on the support from that. Brilliant positioning, and Fnatic's going to go right back into this.
No, not only that, but that was just such a big risk in taking that too, buying up so heavily. If we'd seen Fnatic catch those entries, it could have gone a completely different direction, and G2 would have ended up messing themselves up economically here very early on, which can prove fatal for certain teams if they're not able to manage it properly. But Fnatic were the ones that ended up being caught off guard by that one, and to a big dividend, those ops pick up most of the kills in that final round. Getting into this one, though, Fnatic still go for the investment. olofmeister downgrading himself to a scout, and JW not even bringing a real gun into the mix, just a P250. Still the slow approach from these players, but G2 ultimately will hold the big advantage.
G2 have the pace of the game now into hand. They are stacking a massive amount of players towards A at the point. bodyy pretty much playing B all on its own. No one all that close to rotate towards. Playing a lot of players towards that back of Ivy by train 1 down there. And it does mean there's so much pressure if Fnatic do go for these A hits. And it looks like maybe that could be a possibility again. You've got JW and Olof posturing towards that A hit. And then you've got KRIMZ, Dennis, and flusha down by the, you know, just above pop, so they can easily make those quick, fast hits. But Scream getting curious here could be a real problem. If he pushes up and isolates one of the 2 approaches Fnatic are going for, that is a huge loss to be operating with.
Good initial smoke, too, is going to push SmithZz over here towards heaven, and he misses his first stop shot. Scream, though, shutting down both KRIMZ, olofmeister, and even a 3rd on the flusha. There's those headshots that he's talking about, but Dennis as well has some power to himself, moving in, finds RpK and Scream, but just JW now, and all he's got is that little P250, which SmithZz is going to punish as well. A 2K for him, amazing 3K for Scream, and G2 will find the 2nd round.
Exquisite play from Scream then, in such a huge position as well. playing up by Electric, kind of pushed up between the two trains. No one really isolated him out either. There was a bit of a scrappy battle coming in, but no one able to take that clean fight, and he gets away with it. This was one of the win conditions people were talking about on the desk. Where's Scream been in these massive games? Where has he been in those previous majors, either missing from the very word go, or having very quiet impact games, not having those big performances? If he gets confident, if he starts feeling the game, that is a very worrying side if you're Fnatic. However, let's go into this round because there's only pistols on the side of Fnatic. There should be a 3-3. This should be a nice clean round, and Scream again wanting to get close up and personal, and he's going to get, well, perfectly away from it. Dennis and Olof get picked up. A swift little follow-up towards flusha, and this again is exactly what the French side will be looking towards. And there you go, SmithZz just, well, dismantling JW at the end. So there we go, 3 for 3. JW and the boys of Fnatic have to bounce back from this. They need to get into these gun rounds. Those pistol rounds look good. But that's not enough against G2 here.
Bit unfortunate for SmithZz that he can't actually stop the plant from happening at the end of the day. So there is that bonus money that comes in from Fnatic. And now you're going to see a couple extra grenades and whatnot coming in here or there on the buy. But still, a shutdown from G2, another very clean round, only elevates their own economy, which is kind of getting into dangerous territory now. Basically, everybody except for RPK is in a position to go for a full rebuy, if not a second, if we should see Fnatic to start picking up a few rounds here.
All right, 3-3. Let's see how Fnatic approaches this now, because the big thing before was the fact that when they came into it with the guns, they maybe didn't expect that double AWP to be in practice. Now they know it's there. SmithZz and shox have given away some sort of the game, but look at bodyy, looking for a touch of aggression, gets punished down instantly. flusha just connecting to him through the box itself. Takes a little bit of damage himself, but enough to kind of stave off the wolves for now. And it's going to come down to keeping control of these sites with less players than ideal. They're down to 4 here, so a little bit tough. But shox is going to take on the B side by himself. He's going to be the solo standing bastion for G2 on that one. But Fnatic, they're still playing default. They've gone, okay, we've got the early advantage. This is great for us.
shox, interesting thing for him too is he's just 100% keeping his eyes on the upper entrance. They have nobody to check, so right now in theory anybody could just walk right down the ramp into the B bomb site and no one would be the wiser. In fact, shox might leave himself a bit out in the open because of that, so need to be careful. He's now going to move, looks like a little bit closer to Z to try to watch out for that, but Fnatic, as they've been playing so far in this entire half, they're not giving anything away. It's so quiet, so hesitant, not necessarily hesitant, but just so slow-paced from Fnatic here as they want to keep G2 guessing until the final moment that they rush out onto the site.
And it looks like shox is going to be the one to receive it all. 5 players here. No one able to get the info on towards A that there's no one else coming through. Scream pushed up a bit but saw nothing. So shox, you better be prepared for what Fnatic's about to throw at you. First smoke goes down, sees nothing. They're actually not pushing off it just yet. They're still waiting, quite patiently. Now JW's starting to fit. Now flusha's coming in. Here comes SmithZz as well. They're rotating over. flusha already out by the side. Bomb going to be put down by Dennis. And this is a 4v5 retake. This is massive amounts of numbers left up. This is going to be a very messy round, but there you go, RpK finding olofmeister. SmithZz comes in with one for himself. We're down to 3. JW's going to take it on to himself, but he can't do it. It's shox still standing, and now down to 2. Dennis and KRIMZ have to hold back G2 themselves.
Moving in, we can see Scream picking up the frag onto Dennis, so just KRIMZ left up and running, but he does have the Molotov to toss over onto the bomb now. It's going to be covering it. Might have been thrown out a bit too early here, but KRIMZ can move out. Unfortunately, no flashbang or anything else to support him. As soon as he walks out, Scream's going to be waiting for it here, tries to take down the diffuser, but Scream is ready for it. Closes out the round yet again, and G2 will now tie the matchup and take the lead away within 2 swift victories from Fnatic.
And even though flusha seemed to put in so much work during that round, that retake eventually did come down to that 2-on-2. So G2 just holding on long enough, be able to retain these AWPs, keep them back into practice. Their money starting to look better and better. Already got 10k sitting on Scream, shox on 9. And we know that the CT side on this map can be a little hard to create that really robust economy, but they are handling it well for now. Whereas Fnatic, it's draw everything back together. You've got the UMP for JW, a Tech 9 merely for KRIMZ, but enough utility they can build something out of. And I'm wondering if we're going to see an A hit off of this, because, well, look at the positionings from the likes of JW, KRIMZ, Olof, and Dennis. They're all looking like maybe this is the set play coming out. flusha getting himself towards drop. And now 4 players waiting to receive. RpK pushing up as well on Ivy is going to make this harder for Olof to have any impact here.
And already SmithZz just firing off the shots. Finds JW, looks for another one. He knows someone's there, the number 8 man. That's going to be olofmeister wrapped around the corner, and these other guys are stuck, but shox, somehow that shot doesn't connect onto either of them. And now moving out, what just happened? Switches out the gun, he's burning alive. Dennis and KRIMZ are going to find 2 kills. SmithZz and RpK are there to support, but Dennis again with a quick headshot takes down SmithZz. And we'll be into a 2-on-2 with Fnatic having full control over the outside site.
And they know that body's been positioned at B. They know this for sure, but RpK's position, maybe not as well known, but he's known to be playing over by Ivy. So looking at Fnatic, how do they position themselves? Dennis, going to try and take some real estate here, go looking for a little bit of something down by the old bomb train, but body's just behind that. So again, this could be quite deadly. KRIMZ waiting for more, body's starting to push up, they know he's gonna come this way. Dennis takes the step out, takes the fight and wins it. It's down to RpK in the 1v2, finds Dennis, but can he find any more? It's KRIMZ in the 1v1, smoke goes down. RpK fakes it out, looking for the fight, he finds KRIMZ as well. It's RpK being solid as ever, and in the last couple of seconds of the defuse, he will bring it in, and G2 retain their lead in this. A massive round again from G2, and Fnatic just don't seem to be able to close out these rounds.
It was looking like Fnatic had it all. They had everything going for them. They had site control in their favor. Trades were a little bit unfavorable, but they caused some big mess-ups against the favor of G2 there. And now bringing it onto the site, some big plays from RpK. That first kill, very impressive, but the second one as well, with the bait smoke, it ends up working out perfectly, and G2 now continue to forge forward with an even bigger lead against Fnatic here, and they're trying to scrap together a buy. They managed to get it, but JW has to risk it now and go for a glass cannon up because their money's so low.
And another, let's say, impressive thing, at least in my eyes, is the fact that G2 were able to operate these retakes even with double AWPs in practice. Not necessarily the last two are alive, but even having that as a factor seems to make it quite difficult. Now, RpK, he excelled in the previous round. He might just have to do it again. He has shox beside him, a deadly duo that needs to come up with the goods, and the first has fallen. JW punishes shox, but RpK will not be moved. That's 3 back-to-back. KRIMZ, Olof, and JW get decimated, and flusha left to watch his team fall apart.
RpK just absolutely destroyed them, and Scream, not even a moment of hesitation, just walks right out. flusha tries to fire. He's even got the off angle, but he just still destroys him. G2 are looking to be in hot form right now to keep themselves going, but they still have a while to push forward. 10 more rounds to claim this match. But we will see the timeout coming in now from Fnatic.
Okay, let's bring this back down to earth here, because if you looked at this game from a purely, let's say, removed approach, let's say you'd never seen these teams before in any way, shape, or form, but you knew their stats coming into it, or something along those lines, you'd had some idea of who they are. You'd always give this to G2, so being excited about it seems almost questionable, because their form has been excellent. Their players have been to this degree previously. But then you always think it's Fnatic. If anyone's ever seen Fnatic with their backs to any wall, you generally see them coming out swinging.
That's the thing is that the analysts were talking about, right? Is that everything leading into this matchup would have said G2 would take this in a best of one, but they all think Fnatic has it. They're expecting some, not necessarily nip magic, but like Swedish magic to come into play, but we just haven't found it yet. We're not seeing those big clutch plays from Fnatic, these big all-star style plays. It's all coming from G2, and Scream to a big degree on quite a few of these rounds, but RpK in the past 2 or 3 now as well has had some big impact to keep G2 in the lead.
Yeah, and I don't think I need to credit the analysis desk, but they did give the win conditions for G2, and one of those predominantly was Scream having a big impact, having one of these big games. Same with shox to a degree. He's always played well, but to have it in these bigger moments is something you need to keep looking at, and it has to be consistent. It can't just be for a couple of rounds here or there, those, I guess you can call them frag movie plays, you know, those little highlight reels that come out. It has to be those worthwhile frags throughout. So again, this is still, you know, we're going into round 10, but it's the infamous Fnatic pause, and I think everyone's aware of it by now, but the mental game and the mental fortitude to come out of this as a team coming against Fnatic doing this is quite difficult. It's not something easy to do, because historically, the thing is that Fnatic will always rebound. They'll always come back in with some sort of bigger play. Even their previous game in the groups, they had that timeout. Again, they had those kind of crazier force buys with, you know, the scouts and these really subpar weapons or subpar buys, and they even brought it back close then. So again, there's always that mental game that starts to kick in, but G2, if they have that fortitude, which I imagine they do have by now, to just go, okay, we're doing well. We don't need to let this get in our heads. This could be very interesting. The unpauses come in, so we're going to find out soon what Fnatic come up with this round. They've gone for that force up here. They've got, you know, the mollies coming out. They've got a couple of smokes to put into place. The armor, the Tech 9s, a CZ there with JW. So they have enough to build something out of, and you can imagine it's probably going to go towards B, just because you can get those plants. You can kind of isolate that site a little easier. But then again, you've already got shox and body positioning quite aggressively towards the ramp, so maybe expecting this in the back of their minds as a possibility, and it could all be a fake, it could all be a ruse. Fnatic have 1 minute and 35 seconds to lay out their plan.
flusha wasting no time getting himself to the entrance there, to the upper area of the B bomb site, hoping he can catch anybody from G2 that might have taken an aggressive position. Not going to be found, of course, as G2 are holding back, but it's got to be bodyy, and he doesn't find anything. This is exactly what Fnatic want. They want to cause chaos in the site and get control before G2 can even react to it. Moving back in, and they're even pushing forward now, too. Olofmeister with the pickup, flusha with the second. RpK responds, but flusha finding another one. Scream's the last one going, but he's stuck behind a Molotov, so Fnatic's plan has worked perfectly.
And everyone barring Dennis surged forward there. Every single one of them played in towards those smokes. They pushed up to try and get G2 on that back foot, and there you have it. JW recovers it, and that's one of those classic Fnatic rounds that you see so often. And a lot of teams will think, okay, well, the best they can get out of this is a plant, which is what you kind of imagine. You go, okay, well, if they get a plant, couple of kills, that's probably what you're going to get there. But no, Fnatic are the team that goes all the way. They get the round, they get everything in the bag, they get all those guns for free. They've got a double AWP themselves now. Arguably quite tough to work with maybe on the T side here on Train, but knowing Fnatic, they'll probably find a place to put it into position. You know, they've got JW there, flusha, able to operate incredibly well on it. So now G2 needs to be ready to receive the storm coming their way on a full buy.
Fnatic had established the status quo of fairly slow-paced plays, waiting down the timer, and that sudden increase of pace just was not ready for G2, essentially, as they were caught so much off guard, but that one bodyy cannot handle it. So olofmeister as well this time is going to move very quickly outside into the short lane on the outer site, but SmithZz punishes it swiftly as well, taking him down. But the response coming in from JW outside of Ivy takes down RpK, and flusha almost eliminated by Screen, but he is able to get back and keep himself safe for now.
And that's the first time we've really seen RpK removed away from that Ivy position this early on. He hasn't been giving that up at all. So that could be a really nice way for Fnatic to start pressuring G2 a little more, because shox and Scream have been fairly safe in the pocket of RpK there, saying, well, you take your time. You do your AWPing thing, you do your rifling thing. I'll keep this under wraps. Now with that gone, you're going to see them in the back of their minds going, oh, is JW going to push up? Are they going to make a play from it? No, Fnatic have gone back to that, not necessarily a default, but just taking their time on this building elsewhere. They have everything they need. Look at all the utility they still have, 50 seconds remaining here. They've got all the smokes, they've still got both of the AWPs, and they're going to go for a B hit, and it's all going to be bodyy. SmithZz and Scream can rotate quickly. shox finding JW is going to help. That could speed up the rotate process, because here comes the hit. bodyy has to be ready.
There's still no increased rotate pace, though, because of the fact that they find that earlier kill, so bodyy is going to be overwhelmed. He's got no support to help him out here. Smokes and Molotovs now coming out to hold the rest of G2, rotating in from the A site back, but there's a good start for shox, taking down KRIMZ, and now moving back in. Players from Fnatic are holding a little bit more aggressive positioning, but flusha holds true, takes down SmithZz. Into a 2v2 we go, and the timer's still ticking away. flusha waiting for that repeat from shox. He knows he's sitting back there somewhere, but just can't find him. And Dennis also creeping forward up to the train stoppers, but there's a quick shot from shox. Takes down what? flusha gets 2 in a row. They just line right up for him. Scream and shox both going down. That's another one for Fnatic, and they're almost back in this game now.
That is how you crush a comeback. That is Dennis being pumped up. I think he's pretty happy with that one, and I can't blame him. That was absolutely nuts from flusha. What on earth? All right, let's just watch this back again. So far, this is shox being sick. That's a really nice shot. He didn't have the first shot on it, and now flusha steps out, and they're just both right there. Those shots don't happen very often, but coming in at that sort of turning point is massive. 6-5 now. G2 still with the lead, but look at their money. It's been broken. The back of the beast is now pretty much in tatters, as it looks like Fnatic is starting to gain some momentum, starting to gain that control. Off the back of that pause, it seems to have worked out again.
The stars align for flusha to find that final kill there. Both of those final kills, I suppose you could say, as he is going to be able to pick up yet another one for Fnatic. And now that they've established control again, look, they just go right back to the more restricted, more reserved pace that they were using earlier on in this game. Now that they have the advantage against G2, they can try to trick them off a little bit here by running down the timer a lot more.
And if you're G2, it's so hard to start reading into those rounds, isn't it? Because how can you account for flusha hitting those sort of shots? How can you account for anything that Fnatic does in those instances? It's not an easy thing to, go, okay, well, tactically, how can we change this? It's just a Fnatic thing, It's very, very tough mentally to break into. So for G2, might just have to be one of those where you have to just close your eyes and grit your teeth and bear through this at the moment, because Fnatic are starting to posture towards B. 3 players on the B site, though. So SmithZz, bodyy, and shox ahead of the punch here, and so Scream, actually. So Fnatic walking into quite the stack at the moment. Dennis might find that out very soon. Let's not line up, but bodyy hits the shot. Dennis goes down. bodyy again finds JW. There's good work coming in, but KRIMZ, forever consistent.
KRIMZ not being punished at all. They're literally just standing up top, picking away at them. So 3 kills for him. RpK tries to turn the tables, but it's not going to be possible. I mean, that's going to be a nice 4K from KRIMZ. That basically all those kills come from upper. Nicely played by him. And Fnatic, again, officially tying things up now. It's 6 rounds to either side, but this also does take us into another buy round from G2, where maybe they could swing another comeback yet again.
And they need to stem the bleed now. If you're G2. If you want to have that really robust, nice CT side to yourselves, you want to start looking at keeping Fnatic away from any more rounds at this very particular point. If they get any more momentum, if their money gets any better than this, they're going to have such a nice fallback position to go to, but double AWP's back out for G2 here.
For the G2 side of things, still leaving bodyy as the main and currently only defender here in the B-bomb site. shox is ready to move back, and offer some additional support if need be. But look at Fnatic, how heavily they're pushing into Ivy all of a sudden. This is new from them too. KRIMZ, Olofmeister, along with the bomb carrier, JW, all pushing in, ready to move, but there is a dangerous presence from G2, also hiding on the outside. It doesn't matter though. KRIMZ walks right up and takes down RpK. Here's shox with the up though. This is the first line of defense in the site itself, but JW is ready for the peak on the bomb train, and KRIMZ is still fragging as well. SmithZz is here. He's been a big player so far in this match too that we haven't talked a lot about, but can't find anything from the top of the ticket booth. He's gonna get smoked back out, and these guys have to fall back. If they even are going to attempt the retake at this point, it's gonna be a long process to wrap all the way around again.
It truly is, and going for this could be pretty dangerous and pretty tough. Considering Fnatic made that so quick and such a fast hit, they still have so much to put into play. JW still got a smoke, a nade, a flash. They're very well set for this, and I think obviously G2 are respecting that. They're going to walk away and try and keep these weapons as long as possible, and Fnatic, they could maybe hunt for one, maybe two, but at the end of the day, they're going to retain these themselves and just be very, I guess, respectful of each other in this instance. But it does look like Fnatic have started to work out they can exploit Ivy a little more than before. Of course, RpK did have that one big round, but beyond that, that 3-stack play coming through hasn't been met with too much aggression. KRIMZ is gonna go for a look. Gets found by SmithZz in the end. So they're going to be fine here. No one else can get close. They'll keep that AWP and the M4 to hand. I'm wondering what the money's like across the board. They could put something back into place here. A couple of drops could come out, but it would be a very scrapped together buy for G2. However, for Fnatic, as said, money's getting better and better here by the round. 7.6k on olofmeister, 7.5 still on JW. So they are very well set. And yeah, for G2, they might need to change something up here. I'm wanting to see maybe some aggression somewhere on the map. But again, it's hard to put yourself in that mindset when Fnatic have been overrunning you.
It feels like, for me, the biggest area, which, I mean, for the past couple of rounds hasn't been too big of an issue, but just for B-hits, they need to give some extra support to bodyy, because it's becoming very clear that he cannot hold this site all on his own. Talk more about that in a minute, though, as the first combat's already getting started. Scream, although he is met initially with some damage from KRIMZ, he responds to it with a headshot, taking him down. The rest of Fnatic, and they're not even trying to go for this site. That was the primer there to keep them in here. They are free to rotate now to the inner site where the actual combat's going to go down.
Well, this is what you want to see, some support for bodyy. And, well, eventually he's got it. shox has got himself over to be quite early on. So not going to be retaken by the time Fnatic are already out, who are notoriously very aggressive once they get that plant position under wraps. So JW forced to back away. Can't take the initial fight, but here comes the push from that lower B ramp. It's shox to find Dennis. So now they know there's trouble afoot. They know there's more than that one player bodyy, and shox has still got room to work. But olofmeister just dissembles him, and look at this. olofmeister has been let loose finally. 10 HP, has to back out of this and gets caught up in the end by SmithZz. Now 1v3 is down to JW, and the bomb's loose. It has not been planted. He'd have to fight back in tooth and nail for it. And hell, he's going to go for it. 6 shot towards SmithZz, and now 1v2. Scream already low, 12 HP. RpK already on the site though. G2 have the numbers, but it's still JW.
JW nicely played, and such a odd hesitation coming out there as well from SmithZz, but the jump down, it's not going to surprise RpK this time. Can't do it twice in a row. He will stop the madness. And G2 again battling back, tying it up at 7-7 as we go into the final round of the first half between these two legendary teams.
You're nuts, JW. You're just nuts. How depressing it is if you're SmithZz and you're sat there like, this is going to happen. I know it's going to happen, but you can't do much against that sort of thing. But yeah, at the end of the day, G2 have stabilized to some degree. They've got the scoreline back to a, I guess, more respectable marker at 7-7. They've stemmed the bleed that was starting to appear. And Fnatic, though, not going to be letting up on them. They're going back in pretty fast here. Olofmeister already finding room to get out here. And Scream might have some more issues now. Last time he's been, or last couple of rounds, he's been getting away with murder from these positions, consistently outdoing players. But Olofmeister, look at him. Just working his way through cautiously, carefully, checking every corner. Gives away a little bit of a spot there. RpK gets the better of him, but Dennis will trade out effectively. But it's SmithZz to retain the advantage for G2. But the hit, it's not on A.
It's coming into the inner site, and again, it's bodyy trying to hold things, but he just gets overwhelmed by KRIMZ. Rotations moving in. Already 2 out onto the site before the smokes have even plumed, but there's nothing really to see. JW jumping up. SmithZz tries to respond, but it's not going to happen with JW picking up these kills now ever since we got halfway through this half. RpK trying to push forward, but JW sneaky now underneath of that smoke. He grabs another kill. Good response from shox at the very least, but he's alone in a 1v2. It's the final round of the half. He's got to go for it. He's got a lot of utility to use, but not really trying to use any of it at the moment. Looking for a better position, but he might have just been spotted as well by KRIMZ. At the same time, the favors return on the shox, pushing forward. Almost takes down KRIMZ. In fact, 1 HP left, but he will find the final frag. It'll be Fnatic that lead, 8-7 at the end of the first half.
And what a marvelous first half it's been. Both teams fighting tooth and nail for survival here in the major. Of course, one of these two teams will be going home, just to remind you what's on the line. And my gosh, do they know it as well. So guys, do keep yourselves locked into this. We'll be back after a very short break. Do not go anywhere. might have just begun here. Fnatic up 8-7 on the half, but the war is far from over, Blue. Both teams bringing out the A game here, but still a whole half to play.
It looked like G2 were going to prove our analysts wrong at the beginning of the half, but Fnatic, after a good pause, bounce back. You can see the good plays from G2 all over the place, but flusha bringing some good ones himself, along with the rest of Fnatic. They did bring it back and now have a lead, albeit a very small one as we go into the second half, or now the teams will be switching sides and they will jump onto the defense, with G2 going onto the offense and seeing how they can fare there.
Call it just flusha things, just Fnatic things, who knows what it is, but a couple of those rounds, quintessential rounds for Fnatic. The rounds that signify who they are to some degree off the back of that pause. How many in a row was it? Was it 4 or something along those lines? It was quite a few just right off the back, even though they were on that Tech 9 purchase. It was far from ideal. You can see it there, Scream having a huge impact as well, at least in my eyes. His plays towards A, when he was able to get aggressive, whenever they went for those kind of almost default-like hits towards A, just greeting them at the door every time with a, you know, a nice little punch to the dome and just saying, no, you're not getting towards my site. However, Fnatic did battle back, kept the lead going into the second half, but all starts again fresh here. KRIMZ
definitely seemed like he was the most consistent player across the board for Fnatic, especially as we got into the later rounds and they were actually able to start picking up some wins there. He was the big man on the field, constantly fragging outwards, and we were seeing some flashier plays from the rest of the guys as well. But now things do start. And again, we'll get into the mix of things now, but look at how heavy the push is from G2. 4 players going Ivy. Dennis is going to have himself a battle right at the start of this, and he is not ready for it at all. flusha with a quick response, but now the tide is flowing into the A-bomb site.
Fnatic know exactly what's coming their way. flusha's got the perfect position for it. Already catches out 2. shox and bodyy get absolutely punished. And can there be a third added to the kill count for him? But no, it's going to be KRIMZ to keep this one in check in the end, leaving Scream in the 1v2. olofmeister and KRIMZ having to deal with what Scream can bring, but position pretty duly noted by now. KRIMZ, I've just seen that shoulder peek he has. He's not going to miss a shot like that to get this one back off favorably for Fnatic.
There's KRIMZ again, showing up where he's needed, finding those last couple of kills there, and flusha holding off most of it, of course, after we saw was Dennis that just got completely overwhelmed with the 4-man push from G2, but flusha brings it right down to earth very quickly there as he backs up to the site and stems the tide with him rushing out through that smoke there. So from G2, going into the second round, no plan from those guys, so they will be just forcing up here. SmithZz saving, of course, to look for the op on the... Actually, no, he does get a deagle donated over towards him, so he will still have that for himself, but the rest of these guys are going to fully upgrade with armor included.
And looking almost reminiscent of that first round, however, SmithZz this time joining Scream, and the other 3 going down by Ivy. So looking for a bit of a pinch here, not too easy to succeed in, as Dennis did trade out before, and then flusha, of course, had the great position, but Scream looking for a couple of pixels out of place to find some punishment towards, but it's going to be a very cautious and a very dug-in Fnatic here.
And they do again push in through Ivy. 3 players this time instead of the full 4, with the other 2 looking to push their way in through T-Con a little bit later on, but as they jump out, Dennis is ready. Quick response from shox and RpK finding a second. They found a way out. Now it's about closing it down as KRIMZ up in heaven is still a very imposing force, and not only him, but JW moves in too, able to eliminate shox. Found a good start. There's a good shot from Scream, able to eliminate olofmeister. KRIMZ still steady as ever though, waiting for SmithZz. Scream can't find the angle to try and close this out. He's got the long range that needed to try and take down some of these players, and he's got both of them down to around half HP as well. Just that Fnatic are not going to give him any room to work with here. They'll just run down the timer and play it patiently.
They need to as well. He's still such a deadly player. Compose a huge, impactful play upon them in these last 30 seconds. And they have split up, so he could take 2 individual 1v1s. He's punished KRIMZ there. He's down to 15 HP. Scream going to step out further. Desperate to find JW, but he's going to be tucked in towards the site, so each player going to try and set up a bit of a crossfire towards the bomb. And if they make a peek here, Scream can still punish. 19 seconds, not going to get it. JW nullifies that threat, and it's Fnatic again keeping that score building in their favor.
So with that, getting through the force from G2, and SmithZz did end up buying, by the way, my UI just didn't update in time. We will see basically the trash round coming in from G2 now. Another deagle does actually come out for RpK, but I don't imagine we'll be seeing too much else from the rest of the team, as they need to save up here and then focus on that first corner. Now that Fnatic have the lead, G2 do put themselves right back into the hot seat yet again, as things could fall behind very quickly and lead to their tournament elimination right here.
And G2 really not fancying those B hits. This is something we often see from T sides, especially on those lower buys, because they can define these sites a little better. But posturing towards Ivy, a little bit towards main, and it's not gone too well. They're being shredded by the rifles. bodyy will at least find a bit of a connection there, but that's about all you're going to get in these sort of rounds with flusha waiting on the other side. And well, hello, bodyy. All right, doing a good bit of damage. 2 kills for him, but down to 10 HP. Shouldn't be allowed to get away with much more.
respectable at the very least, considering the circumstances leading into this round, but it's going to be JW jumping past the server box there to eliminate the last player from G2 and taking us into that first gun round now, where we'll see the investment coming out from the T side here. And actually, big question, of course, is are we going to see the full op investment coming out from SmithZz or not, or is that going to be saved for the 6th round?
It is an interesting question, and yeah, he's not going to go for it. Maybe looking for that later if required, but not exactly known for his T-sided AWPing either. CT side maybe plays to his style a little bit better, but still, he will have to look towards it at some point here. shox to be setting up the flash for RpK if he needs to dive forward, which he's going to do. Allows RpK the first peek in case there was a dash of aggression from Fnatic. Not going to be the case. JW is going to walk away as well, but he's still chomping at the bit to get this first shot off.
Rest of G2 moving very quickly to the back of the B bomb site to group up there. As we can see the rest moving in. SmithZz running around the back there along with a few others. Fnatic have a pretty solid setup. 2 on the B bomb site, fully committed too. It's not like you have that floater inside of Z waiting to go in the other direction there, but JW moving his way up does get quite a bit of early damage on to Scream, bringing him down to 15 HP. Not sure how much he spotted beyond that, but regardless now, he's gonna pull back way over to the back of upper there and wait for them to push out onto this site. And you can tell now from all the smokes, Molotovs, basically everything that G2 have in their arsenal. That should call for the rotation pretty quickly, but still nothing for Fnatic. They move in, and RpK, he finds that first kill against JW.
Yeah, great late flashes from G2 coming out, making it hard for JW to find any angle, but olofmeister will not struggle in such circumstances, but body's going to still find at least something back into this, with flusha being caught out. Now down to the 3v3, the plant, of course, favorable for G2, going to make it a little bit tougher for Fnatic for here. But they're going to work their way back in. Scream waits ever so patiently, and down in this 2v2, it's Olof and KRIMZ to play the retake as best they can, and Scream's having none of it, like a force of nature locking down this site. Looks for a further follow-up, not going to get it, so olofmeister down to the 1v1. He's on the ace here, and he needs to close it out if he wants this round.
Tapping on the bomb, but SmithZz is waiting for that at the bottom of the ramp. Just peeks right out. olofmeister only sitting at 7 HP anyway, so that is indeed going to be the end of this one. G2 bouncing back on the gun round, exactly where they need to do this. And Fnatic, unfortunately, their money is all over the place. And we look at it as low as 1.5k on KRIMZ and as high as 5.4k on JW, but it's not going to be enough to justify forcing up here. Probably just going to be seeing a save.
Yeah, so just pistols so far. Doubt there'll be much more. No, 0 utilities. Oh, okay, 1 flash towards KRIMZ, 1 on Olof. That's about it. So maybe just going to try and get aggressive. If they can keep themselves maybe a rifle or bring something over or do any damage again, this would be a huge benefit to them. But JW is going to posture towards maybe one of the most perfect angles with that CZ. Waits so patiently down below to be fed any sort of kills. And look at the flashes. That's all he's getting so far. One after the other. And with 4 players above him, he needs to be careful. No one's going to be really going down pop at this point. Look at everyone from G2. That's a B hit in the making, unless they psych themselves out of it. But no, shox already going to be the one tendering towards it himself. Going to flash down. And it's going to be go time for them. So, Fnatic, wrong place, wrong time, but a gamble that was required. You can't take, of course, straight up fights when you just have those pistols. Normally, you've got to try and find a way to work them in.
And bodyy knows that someone's probably going to be pushing up from ladder room too. He's had his eyes 100% posted up on that for the past few minutes now. As we can see, though, he actually looks away from it, but that is going to be giving shox an opportunity to push back in and give coverage to it. So these guys just don't get flanked on their exits or anything, making sure that they keep all the guns in check, and that Fnatic basically don't escape with anything in this round, that it's basically just a waste of time. They're going to try to move into the site, but here we go. They're being picked off now. Scream finds the first one. SmithZz has the cross angle to take down olofmeister on his attempt to escape back towards CT spawn. We're getting a bit aggressive there, finding Dennis. Bit of trouble with the second one. flusha will take him down, and that actually might be an AK picked up for him. He finds it, but RpK stops that in its tracks, takes down flusha. And JW, basically he's been in ladder in this entire round. It looks like that's going to be the only place he gets to have any fun in.
Not quite making it off the top of the ladder then to try and do some last second damage. So we'll be sticking himself around. He's still got the CZ, but he's on 6.8k, so it's not the end of the world for him. He can be just perfectly fine into this one. But yeah, a good start now coming back for G2 into the gun rounds, at least, being able to turn the tide against Fnatic eventually. But Fnatic are back on the buy here. So KRIMZ, sure, not in the most ideal position with the Mag 7, but there's places for this on this map anyway. And with JW on the AWP, enough utility to hold back an initial push or whatever G2 might plan. This is still perfectly fine for Fnatic. They are still in the lead. And for SmithZz, we're yet to really see that AWP play come out for him.
We're going to see a bit of a change up there. shox initially was moving in. Looks like he's actually going back to spawn. Yep, just to get some extra utility into his arsenal there. So picking that up before the timer does expire and moving in now. We do have a shotgun buy coming out for the Fnatic side too. KRIMZ is going to be playing towards the ladder room, and there could actually be some action in that direction depending on the way that G2 want to formulate themselves here. Some nades going out to the B-bomb site, and it does look like the players are shifting in that direction now. So again, leaving a lot onto olofmeister to try and hold this in the event the take does come into this site.
Well, G2 have been pretty successful at this. On the gun rounds, they have been considering B far more than that A hit that was their pistol kind of plays. So it worked out pretty well before. It could do again. We're going to find out pretty soon. shox putting down the smoke, the molly to follow. It's going to be olofmeister and JW to be the first point of contact, but still, here comes G2. Let's see how far they can get in this.
JW hitting shox through the wall. They're only knocking about half of his HP off from the shot, though, and so far, olofmeister not finding anything. The good news is the rest of Fnatic are on the way, and KRIMZ will have a late flank opportunity opening up due to his position from the ladder room earlier on, but now the aggression coming in. bodyy taking up a spot, and shox overwhelming JW. Dennis finds a response, but look at olofmeister. Just walks right up. Thankfully for G2, he only grabs one kill. Scream trades it out, but in comes that flank from KRIMZ, just going to be denied by SmithZz. shox finding another one. flusha the last one alive in a 1v2, but he has such a little positional advantage over G2 that he might as well fall back and save. Trying to go for the spray, but he runs out of ammo. Switches to the pistol. Somehow Scream doesn't kill him, so he finds that frag, but now with an op on the ground in front of him, it's time to run. The timer is too low. He's going to give this one to SmithZz, and it'll be a 10th round for G2.
Yeah, Scream having an absolute mare in that situation, then pretty much whipping a hell of a lot of things. But a round, nevertheless, into G2's back pocket. That's all they're going to be looking at here. Sure, the money's probably not going to be ideal from their point of view. Again, Scream's a little low, but the rest can supplement that if required. You've still got RPK on 7.3, 7.2 for shox. But on the other side, that's the big story. Fnatic's money is gone. They have the AWP that was retained by flusha. He backed away, switched that out, picked that one up. And everyone else, well, the most they can get would be a pistol. If anything, I'd argue this should be a very clean round from them. One P250 for Olof, one for JW, the others stuck onto the USPSs, that's it. No more beside it. flusha has to be the key here if anything wants to be done for Fnatic. Otherwise, G2 need to approach this perfectly to not lose numbers. This should be a round that's easy for them, but look at it already. Olof, he doesn't want this to be easy at all. He wants to make this as hard as possible, and there comes the spray from shox. Not clean, but it gets the job done. And now JW's the next on the chopping board.
JW hiding in the corner, going to be flashed, and SmithZz taking him down with the op. Things continue to go well here for G2. flusha still having his own op to try and work with, but probably not going to be given really any good opportunities to work with it here. As now that G2 have found those two openers, they're actually going to give themselves a bit of pacing, holding back for a couple of extra seconds. Psyching out some of the members from Fnatic, but they are focusing big time on this push from the Ivy area. bodyy moving into it now to see what they can find against Fnatic.
flusha still holding a couple of cards close to the chest. Might be able to find some work here. Flashes eventually coming through for G2, bullying their way out. Dennis still working with USPS, and this guy's notorious for it. Don't doubt him. He could have found more towards RpK, but it's flusha coming in, and that's the bomb. Suddenly, there's a dangerous threat aboard here. Now Fnatic back with a shot into this round. A slim one, may I add, because it is that deadly combo. Scream and shox, the headliners here, having to find one singular man. And look at them, already so cautious, so hesitant, so scared to put themselves into play. But there you go, bomb's gonna go down. Scream being the bodyguard, but here comes flusha. He misses the sitter. He took it a little too quickly. He had the time on towards Scream, but he didn't take enough of it. Scream will punish, and G2 bring this one back all even. And well, there won't be any wishes in this one coming through because, well, Cedric isn't here, neither is Henry, but this is a very, very interesting scoreline we've got on our hands.
Dennis gets that miracle opener. Somehow they didn't notice him sitting up on top of the first train outside of Ivy. Gets 2 kills basically for free, and even that third one, the RpK was able to recover, but it still didn't feel like he had a full grasp as to where he was playing from for a second there. And then flusha also has an opponent with his back turn, and he misses the op shot. That could have completely turned that round in a different direction. But for the G2 guys, they do still close it out. 4 rounds in a row now for them after Fnatic took the first 3. We'll see where they can take this next buy. Fnatic still have theirs going though, and it is a double op setup from these guys as well.
And JW doesn't have one of them. That's the next interesting factor, at least in my eyes. It's Dennis and Olof. JW playing B, gonna be up close, playing with the M4. You got olofmeister supporting just behind, but you can see the intention from G2 here. They want that B hit so far. shox and RpK leaning towards it already. You've got Scream, maybe playing a little on the rotate, maybe to catch anyone around the back, or just to keep some presence towards that A side. But already olofmeister says a big no towards shox, gonna deny his passage, and JW so close now there's no one else coming through just yet. So I still very tentatively put towards that A side.
Scream also moving in now, trying to push the short lane out from T-Con. KRIMZ is going to find another pickup. This is turning out to be a pretty bad decision from G2, to be honest, because not only have they flubbed this, but JW's moving in. He's going to find the first 2 kills up in the grill of both SmithZz and bodyy. Friends, both of them are pushing back up that ladder room, and they do punish G2's late decision to throw off the inner hit.
And the money's not looking great now for G2. Swings and roundabouts here between these two guys. G2 not able to stabilize thoroughly. These rounds haven't been, back-to-back. They've not been strung together for them. Fnatic keeping themselves extremely deadly, extremely viable throughout this one. And that double AWP, it may not have come out perfectly in that, but it certainly played a role. JW being able to hold that close angle allowed so much room for olofmeister to be able to focus towards that upper side. And as you said, that hesitation from G2, it pretty much meant that round was done and dusted. Now, down to the pistols. Maybe time to have a discussion as to what can we do here. Can we get a bomb plant? Can we try and hit that B site? With Fnatic being so close by, with them not allowing any freedom, it's going to be incredibly hard to get towards.
They will basically go for a solidified push. G2 moving into this round. As you can see, all 5 players very quickly stacking up at the back of the offside. And olofmeister is going to spot this, but the first shot actually misses. JW even almost caught out, but look at this. It's just an absolute massacre from JW. Has the Molotov, kills 3 of them with the rifle, burns another one. He does end up going down at the end of the day, but it doesn't even matter. shox is killed by a hopping olofmeister, and it'll be a 13th from Fnatic.
Yeah, JW just starting up the barbecue already. 13-11 now. Fnatic a couple of rounds away from keeping themselves in this major. G2 need to start being very, very careful now. Double AWP coming out for them. SmithZz and shox both going to pick those up. We haven't seen too much of this yet from G2. This is a big round. This is starting to become do or die, and they know it. This is their tournament life on the line. Next couple of rounds will define the future of these two teams. Let's find out how this one goes. Double AWP on both sides. And already G2 going for a bit of a start, a bit of a default. Taking the time, but SmithZz with quite the aggressive peek here. Looking for some real estate out towards that A side, but 4 players waiting on the other side.
And Fnatic again with a very big emphasis on the A side hold here, specifically Dennis just outside of the Ivy area where we do have a lot of pressure coming in from G2 in that department here. shox is going to be smoked off, won't be able to catch Dennis moving in on the cross there, and flusha as well will be able to support in the event the push comes from that direction, but he's also got to be focused on players like Scream, who tried to push the short lane in the past to get some quick control of the site, which the rest of his team can use to then venture further out and eventually take control of the whole damn thing.
1 minute left to go. Both teams know the ramifications of this round. They know how much this one means. You can see Dennis sitting pretty far back here. Working down Ivy, shox and RpK. The rest waiting to see what comes of it. 47 seconds. Still the smokes there with G2 as well. First one goes in, a couple more to follow. Dennis doesn't care, RpK goes down, but shox gonna continue forward. Scream's found a way through. Already a couple of shots come his way, so hesitation starts being shown, but bodyy doesn't care. And there we go, Scream finally finds his way through, bodyy finds another. He has found massive impact into this round, and it's down to a 2v2 now. Scream and SmithZz have to do it all. olofmeister with a bit of a cheeky jump up and above with the AWP to hand. Doesn't get any fruit for that labor. And now KRIMZ, 1v2, 15 seconds. And the bomb is nowhere to be found. They have to take the fight, and KRIMZ is having none of it. Look at it, SmithZz already falls to his hands, and Scream gonna walk in, and it's down to KRIMZ to close it. And a big round from KRIMZ will keep Fnatic firmly in the lead, now on the door step of taking themselves through to the rest of the major.
The patient style of play from Fnatic pays off big time there for KRIMZ at the end. olofmeister actually almost threw that away by going for that jumping op shot, gave away his position, and there was nowhere to run for him, especially with just the op still sitting in his hands. He basically just had to sit there and take that damage going down, but KRIMZ plays the exact opposite sort of style, waits for G2 to get a little bit over-aggressive and push out, and punishes both of them with 2 separated 1v1s that he handles with no problems whatsoever. G2, their money's not going to be in the best place once again, and since it's going to be the 14th round, they decide to force it up here. They're going to go for it. It's Tech 9 armor for every player. For those that can afford utility, they've grabbed it, but for RpK and shox, they can't really bring too much to the table besides their smokes.
You could argue that bomb being left in main was a bit of a factor in that previous round, but into this one, clean slate coming in for G2. They have to recover something. As I said, if Fnatic get to 15, you've got to feel that Fnatic can grind out that final one no matter what. Dennis still being ever so present towards Ivy, but not going to be challenged out this time. body's backing away, so G2 looking for opportunities, but not too much on the board for them here.
G2 just looking at options now as well as far as what they can try to take with this measly little buy they've gone for. This is it. This is going to be one of their last big attempts to try and find a way back into this match. They need to, at the very least, try to guarantee a plant in this situation so they can get that bonus money and try to force up a little bit beyond this, since they going to be pretty close to the full losing bonus after this if they should lose it. But the dream here would be just outright win it and keep the game close. But their initial attempts, Ladder Room's going to get mollied off. You can see they're just stuck here. It's Scream and RpK. There'll be a push in a moment here from shox, but even he's hesitating, pushing towards Ivy because of that looming pressure here. KRIMZ up on top now. He can hear the plant coming in, but he's focused on Scream by Evox. Looking for RpK, can't actually find him all that much. So initially G2 are getting good control, but no frags, and they've taken damage as well.
G2 getting away with murder here, though. They've been able to get themselves in a good position into this one, and oh no, bodyy taking down SmithZz. That's ridiculous. That's huge at this point. You can't be allowed to do that. shox will find one back, but now everything's up in the air. It's still to be fought for. 3v4, though, Fnatic have the favor.
shox waiting for some peeks to come out there. That's a good shot on a flusha. Quick flick from him. Scream going to be falling back into Ladder Room just to play it safe for now. There's some hesitation from Fnatic, but they're moving over. They're going to be jumping onto the bomb, and there's no pressure at all from G2 to move back into the site. They find all the kills, but it doesn't matter because Fnatic, G2 had played so passively they'd all just fallen back, and it let Fnatic walk right back in and stick that defuse without any hesitation. That was a big mistake from G2 to play that as passively as they did.
That is devastating. You can see it all over G2's face as well. They know that was a round that they didn't have much of a shot into, but they built something from, and to lose it in such a fashion is pretty devastating here. 15-11 now. Let's remind ourselves history is often written by the victors of war, and so far it's looking like Fnatic are on the verge of walking away with this one. Again, though, this final round has to come through. It has to be sealed. And shox fought so bravely in that previous round to keep this one even close, but let's see if he can keep his head held high, as this is the final throw of things here.
Solve for Fnatic now. Looking to try and move themselves through in this event. SmithZz, an attempt to boost up there inside of T room as well to try and take down flusha. He almost had the connection, but was off by just a little bit there. So that'll prompt Molly coming in from Fnatic to hold them away for a little bit longer. G2 are looking for a way to get themselves into the A-bomb, so they still have a decent buy to work with in this round, but they need to impact right from the get-go as this take, and Fnatic already have a very good idea as far as what's going to be thrown at them in this round, so it's going to be hard already because they've sort of countered it out with their positioning.
However, shox and RpK have a good opportunity here. Dennis will be the one opposing them. If played through, flusha looking towards main. Again, Fnatic quite pushed up towards main. flusha and KRIMZ both watching that, and you can see a little bit of an aggression going to come out from it. RpK connects perfectly towards Dennis. Scream towards KRIMZ, and suddenly we have a game on our hands here, Blue.
flusha only able to grab a one against SmithZz there with Scream, finding a quick response. shox with another one, and it's just JW now, who tried to work for the flank, pushing in from the B-bomb side. He pushed up for a long time ago, but bodyy is waiting for them, and G2 punished the overt aggression from Fnatic inside of T-Connector, along with other areas of the map, and, well, that big mistake from Fnatic now keeps G2 in this game for a little bit longer.
This is going to take determination of biblical proportions at this point, but look at Fnatic's money.
Yeah.
It's broken.
They've absolutely screwed themselves by doing that in that last round. They're going to go for this, so they want to still crush this before it even gets close to overtime. So the force comes in now from Fnatic. It's not great, grant you. Mainly upgraded pistols with armor. olofmeister is able to get a mag 7. But we've seen these rounds pull off match-ending rounds plenty of times in the past. So I wouldn't necessarily say Fnatic have a zero chance of closing this out, especially with the aggression coming out. RpK might find his match, but the flashbangs end up working out in his favor. He's able to take down JW.
The tank almost got a little overzealous there. Got to be careful. He did tag up olofmeister, but he's still alive. He's got 45 HP to play with, so still present. And there's still such a threat, as you said. This is the thing. We've seen games ending on rounds like this, especially when it's Fnatic. There's ways they do it. No one can account for it. It shouldn't happen, but it does. So don't write them off just yet. But still, this is G2's round to lose, essentially. They shouldn't lose it at all, but it's mentally their game to throw away if they start getting hesitant. We saw it being a problem before. Hopefully it won't be again into this round for them, as they need to take themselves towards one of these sites pretty soon. 1 minute left on the board. It looks like an A-hit's going to be coming through. KRIMZ could be instrumental in halting this if they do go down through pop. KRIMZ waiting to see if anyone does come through, but no. Again, G2 taking their time here.
KRIMZ trying to determine where exactly he would like to play from the optimal position for him to try and move up against the movements from G2. However, we can see them pushing to the back of the B-bomb site now. And this is going to be all olofmeister with just a measly little mag, 7 in his hands, and also half of his health already gone. The support is coming in very quickly, though, thankfully for him. flusha arriving in the site.
Oh, no.
There's walking right into olofmeister, 1.5 kills basically already. shox finding the trade. Scream and bodyy with 2 more. There's that defense gone from Fnatic now. It's just Dennis. He's picked up 1 kill against shox, but they know exactly where he's hiding at now. But there's a second. We're not done just yet. Dennis holding a strong position behind the bomb train. He's got to get some further movement, though, as right now he's stuck here, and he's only been able to punish overt aggression from G2. Moving out, though, looking for bodyy down to 7 HP. There's only 1 more to go. It's Scream hiding in the back, but he's got 4 bullets. He's found a gun, picks up the shotty. What is this battle? Dennis moving up. He's going to use those 4 bullets, but Scream somehow keeps it together there. And it'll be another one from G2, 13-15, 2 away from overtime.
There is no moment when it's only Dennis or only Fnatic or only anyone. These are ridiculous rounds. That should never come that close. Let's just put that this way. G2 in any other instance should never let rounds get like that. Sure, there's brilliance from individuals, but it shouldn't happen. And look at JW's face, he's like, we're getting so close, guys. It's almost time. It's almost time to break their spirit. Let them have a couple more, like 1 more round maybe, and then we snap them in half. Let them have a couple of dreams start building, and then no. Again, though, this is one that Fnatic's just going to have to go through. There shouldn't be too much done from them. They have 0 almost. They have 1 P250, that's it. So even with an exceedingly good read, those rifles, that utility should always be put down and always played out perfectly. See if it does.
So not expecting anything too great from Fnatic here. It's basically the full save. P250 on Olof, but I think that's the only real buy they've done. No utility either. The guys on the CT side here. And olofmeister taking up a position we have seen JW do a few rounds before. Sitting just below the ladder room. shox gonna move out, but that only confirms the suspicions that there is someone hiding underneath in the basement there, below the ladders. The rest of them now from G2, taking their time, very spread out, but olofmeister finds his first mark on the Scream. Unfortunately, gets a bit over-aggressive, trying to retrieve that gun, and SmithZz will trade it out.
And it looks like Fnatic going to be putting all their bodies, well, barring flusha, excuse me, in towards B. 3 players there just hoping for something. Bearing in mind, G2 have been actually favoring those B hits quite substantially, so maybe not a bad read at all, and my word, it's coming this way. And just as it starts to build, KRIMZ, Dennis backs away, so maybe a little bit of, I don't know, luck towards the side of G2 or just a read, but flusha being so far, seeing nothing, this is quite curious that they've gone for this sort of play, and Fnatic had players here, but no one now left to challenge. JW going to be trying to come back around. flusha's got a good spot, but bodyy already watching it. Means that G2 are very aware in this round. They shouldn't start losing things, but flusha's found a rifle. Dennis has found SmithZz. What is happening? RpK and shox, do not let this one slip. These are the rounds you do not lose. And Fnatic are knocking at the door of a victory. Now shox and RpK again will be asked the same question.
flusha rounding the corner now. He's got an opportunity.
No.
And even without armor, we can see Dennis moves in. He finds the final kill. And a full save. Fnatic are going to close out against G2. 16-13, continuing the curse for the French roster and moving Fnatic forward. They're not out of the groups just yet, but they've just avoided death here in the group of death here against G2.
I have never seen a round like that one at such a moment, and that is the look that you can only summarize that round with. After fighting so hard to come back so close, G2 are going home. They fought hard, but at the end they fell at that final hurdle, a hurdle you should clear every single time of the matter. But no, Fnatic will be the ones going forward. Their major run is not over just yet. But guys, we need to take a break, and we will be hearing from the likes of Fnatic down an interview in just a moment's time, and the analysis desk thoughts on that as well. So guys, do stay tuned. We'll be back in a moment.